Mike Pompeo thought he could destroy Jasmine Crockett's credibility on live television with one brutal attack on her record. What happened next left the former Secretary of State completely speechless and may have just created the most viral political moment of the year. Picture this: a packed television studio, bright lights blazing down on two of America's most talked about political figures. On one side, Mike Pompeo, former CIA director, former Secretary of State, and one of the most powerful men in Washington for years. On the other side, Jasmine Crockett, the 43-year-old congresswoman from Texas, who's been making waves with her fearless approach to politics. Pompeo walked into that studio thinking he was about to school a freshman representative. He had his talking points ready, his attack lines prepared, and his signature confidence on full display. But what he didn't expect was that Crockett had done her homework too. And when she fired back, it wasn't just a response. It was a political earthquake that left everyone in that room stunned. The moment that followed has already been viewed millions of times, shared across every social media platform, and turned into countless memes. Political insiders are calling it a career-defining moment. Critics are saying it changed the entire dynamic of how Washington veterans interact with the new generation of leaders. But before we dive into exactly what happened, make sure you're subscribed to this channel and hit that notification bell. Because what you're about to witness is the kind of political drama that defines careers and reshapes power structures. And trust me, you're going to want to see every second of this showdown. The tension in that studio was electric. You could feel it through the screen. Two completely different political worlds were about to collide, and only one person was walking away victorious. To understand why this confrontation was so explosive, you need to know exactly who these two political powerhouses are and what they represent. Mike Pompeo is the epitome of the Washington establishment. At 61 years old, he's built a career that reads like a political resume from central casting. West Point graduate, Army officer, Harvard Law School, successful businessman, congressman, CIA director, and Secretary of State. For decades, he's been one of the most influential voices in American foreign policy and national security. Pompeo served as the top diplomat during some of the most challenging international crises in recent memory. He's negotiated with world leaders, faced down foreign adversaries, and commanded respect in rooms where trillion-dollar decisions are made. When he speaks, people listen. When he criticizes, careers can end. He's not used to being challenged, especially not by someone with a fraction of his experience. His speaking style is methodical, authoritative, and designed to remind everyone in the room that he's been dealing with life and death decisions, while others were still figuring out their careers. He carries himself with the confidence of someone who's held real power at the highest levels of government. On the complete opposite end of the spectrum is Jasmine Crockett. At 43, she represents everything that terrifies the old guard in Washington. She's young, she's fearless, and she absolutely refuses to be intimidated by titles or reputations. Crockett didn't come from the typical political background. She's a civil rights attorney who spent years fighting in courtrooms before ever setting foot in Congress. She's dealt with hostile judges, aggressive opposing counsel, and high-stakes trials where people's freedom hung in the balance. The woman knows how to fight, and she's never backed down from a challenge. Since arriving in Congress, she's made a name for herself by asking the questions that make establishment figures uncomfortable. She doesn't play the traditional Washington game of polite disagreement and diplomatic language. When she sees something wrong, she calls it out directly, regardless of who gets offended. Her communication style is sharp, quick, and designed to cut through political nonsense. She speaks in a way that regular Americans can understand, without the bureaucratic double-talk that Pompeo's generation perfected. And most importantly, she's not impressed by resumes or past accomplishments when she sees current problems that need addressing. The stakes of this confrontation couldn't be higher. This wasn't just two politicians disagreeing on policy. This was a clash between the old way of doing politics and the new generation that's demanding change. Pompeo represented decades of establishment thinking, traditional power structures, and the belief that experience and credentials should command automatic respect. Crockett represented the growing movement of younger leaders who believe that past titles don't give you a free pass if your current positions are wrong. She's part of a new breed of politicians who think that being a civil rights lawyer fighting for real people matters more than having fancy government positions. The audience knew they were about to witness something special. When these two worldviews collide, sparks fly. And in this case, those sparks were about to become a full-blown political wildfire. The moderator had barely finished the introductions when Mike Pompeo decided to go nuclear. He didn't waste time with pleasantries or warm-up questions. He looked directly at Jasmine Crockett with the kind of stare that had intimidated foreign dictators and launched into his attack. "Let's talk about records, shall we?" Pompeo began, his voice carrying that familiar tone of authority that had echoed through State Department briefing rooms. Congresswoman Crockett has been in office for less than 2 years, and already she's managed to accomplish what many would consider impossible.